The Dukes of Dice are brought to you by Arcane Wonders, game toppers, going on a cruise when you're unemployed, and listeners like you.
Welcome to the Duchy. It's time for another episode of the Dukes of Dice podcast, a proud member of the Dice Tower Network.
Coming to you from the Duchy in the Duke City, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the Gateway City, St. Louis, Missouri, it's The Dukes of Dice, a podcast about board, card, and occasionally role-playing games. Today, the Dukes give you their top 6 games from the last 5 years that will still be played a decade from now. Then they'll be taking a look back at their review of Fireball Island in their Dukes Double Take. And now, The Dukes of Dice.
So, hey there, everybody. It's Sean here. Welcome back. Alex, you there? You there, buddy?
I am. What's going on? This is...
No, I'm ordering my list, this top 6, and I'm just multitasking, Alex, because I'm constantly doing like 15 things at once these last couple of weeks.
Oh man!
So this is no different.
It's almost like I'm the more prepared one.
Hey, this is an episode of the Dukes of Dice, specifically a numbered episode 214.
Yep.
The Eternal Flame, Alex. The Eternal Flame. That title suggestion from Steve Paltrineri. Am I saying that correctly, you think, Alex?
I think so. Yeah, that looks like how it was spelled. I'm always hesitant about this because I've mixed this up in the past where I have misspelled someone's name and mispronounced it consistently.
Sure.
Yeah. So, gonna try not to do that, but yeah.
So I think it's a great episode title because we're talking about top 6 games from the last 5 years with staying power. We just need like 8 more modifiers, but no, that's good. That's good. And of course, we're talking about Fireball Island and our Duke's Double Take. So the Eternal Flame, which is a reference to a song that you're not familiar with, Alex.
Is it from a movie? Is it from a movie I might have seen?
I don't know. I think it's, is it Brandy Carlisle? And is that even the name of the song? It's like part of the chorus, and I sang it for you very poorly off air, and I'm not going to... Oh, it's the Bengals. Oh my God, it's the Bengals. Okay. The Bengals song.
The Cincinnati Bengals?
What? Do you even know who the Bengals are?
Yes, walk like an Egyptian, right?
Okay. Because we had this other discussion offline that your gaps in music and or music... Wait, music and or music?
Music wow. And also maybe music.
Movies. Alex, it's been a rough couple weeks for me.
This is a bad start. I'm just going to call it right now. It's a bad start to an episode, Sean.
Well, good thing it's kind of an abbreviated episode. I have a massive headache, and that's it. That's all I got.
All right.
So anyway, we get help naming all of our Dukes of Dice episodes with our awesome Board Game Geek Guild number 2008, and we've got some runners up that we'll be discussing at the end of the episode. Steve P., sorry for being such a downer at the start of this fantastic episode that you helped name.
Ruined his moment of glory, really. Yeah.
It's a Bengals song, Alex, a Bengals song. Anyway, yeah, how you doing?
I'm fine. I'm doing well. As of the time people are listening to this episode, let me think about this. I will have just had a lovely Thanksgiving meal with Abby's family, and I will be on a boat. I will be on a boat in the Caribbean for AlexCon 2000. No, it's not a con. But I will be bringing a lot of games. I'm having to kind of space out and think about what games I want to bring on this cruise. A Happy Salmon is a for sure. Definitely, probably going to bring Welcome To. Going to bring World Championship Russian Roulette might get brought. Still don't know about the other ones, but I'm definitely going to bring a nice, healthy selection of games, both for the holiday and for the cruise to follow. So that should be lovely. What about you?
Sweet. Well, by the time people are listening to this, I will probably be filming a billion marketing videos for the law firm.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something like, I'll probably be 5 pounds heavier from Thanksgiving turkey.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Because, yeah, I'll be fine. You know, I do remember growing up, because I was always cutting weight for wrestling, and wrestling season always started like a couple weeks before Thanksgiving, that for most of high school, I never really got to enjoy Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's a bummer.
But, yeah, I just need just portion control, Alex.
It is my absolute favorite holiday.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah.
You like turkey that much?
No, it's not about that. It's a food-focused holiday. Oftentimes there's football. When I'm celebrating with my family in California, there's an annual kids versus adults kickball game, which is a lot of fun. I don't know. It's food, it's family, it's football. Like it has a lot of good combinations of things. You don't have to shop for it either. I like giving gifts. I'm fine with giving gifts. I just don't like shopping. So
You kind of have to shop for it because there's Black Friday that occurs afterwards.
that's not shopping for the occasion though. That's still shopping for Christmas. And
it's adjacent. It's adjacent.
did I ever tell you the story about the time my dad bought a computer so he could skip a line at Best Buy on Black Friday?
No.
Well, that's the entire story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great story.
He had the intention of returning it the next day, but basically they had a set of registers that were a much faster line if you bought a computer while you were there. So
Okay.
yeah. Anyway, but yeah, not much of a Black Friday shopper or a fan of shopping in general. I used to say growing up, nothing good ever happened at a JCPenney's. So
That's a great saying.
I apologize to all of our listeners who work at JCPenney's.
Actually, my grandmother used to work at JCPenney's. She worked at JCPenney's for over 20 years, Alex. She was a floor manager in the 70s and 80s.
I'm very sorry about your grandma.
Well, she's still kicking.
Oh, good. No, I just meant that she had to be at JCPenney all the time.
Well, she enjoyed it.
I'm happy to hear
All right.
that.
You know what? Let's move on because, Alex, I'll take some responsibility for getting this off the rails.
I haven't helped get it back on the rails.
All right. Well, for those that don't know, we are recording this a little bit early. We just recorded an episode last week, and now we're recording this one early this week. So, I mean, I only need to see about once every other week, Alex. So I'm just kind of, this is a bit much. I'm a little over Alexed right now.
Yeah, you got an overdose. A vitamin G for Goldsmith.
Oh boy. Let's talk about some board games, Alex. Have you played any board games recently that you would like to talk about on our podcast?
You should go first, if only because I only have one new one to talk about.
What?
Yeah, I know. I don't know what to tell you. I've been playing a lot of like older standbys. I've been playing. You heard that segment last episode on Unlock. I've been playing Unlock. I've been playing Exit Games. I've had to play a bunch of Marvel Champions 3 times to get ready for that review. I don't know. Just there hasn't been occasion for a lot of new games of late, and I'm not at BGG Con as of the recording of this episode, which I'm bummed out about. But no, I only have one new play. It's a good one, and I'll talk about it enthusiastically.
Wait, BGG Con is right now?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh man, I totally forgot. No, that's not true. Rory and Matt have been, and Nick too, have been texting me stuff all day, just rubbing it in my face that I'm not there. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll start off. I got a game in the mail a couple weeks ago. This was actually an unsolicited review copy from Sidekick Games, and it's a game called Bloomtown. Alex, have you heard of Bloomtown?
Not even heard of it. No.
So 2 to 4 players, plays in about 30 minutes plus. I guess it depends on the player count. I just played it 2 players for my first play. Played it with Matthew. And the idea with Bloomtown, according to the publisher, springtime has finally arrived. Bloomtown is reawakening after the long winter, and you must help revitalize the neighborhood. As an architect, players must construct a mixture of offices, subways, parks, homes, and shops to attract tourists and potential new residents. Whoever assembles the most exciting town will be elected as mayor. Based off that description alone, does that sound in any way reminiscent of any other games, Alex?
Get elected as a mayor, huh?
Ignore the mayor part. Ignore the what you're doing.
Oh, well, that seemed like the most important part. That was the only part I was listening to.
It's the winner of the game. If you win, you've been elected mayor.
I mean, that seems pretty important to me. You want to win the game, right? I'm not going to be helping you on this one, Sean. So what?
The idea here, Alex, is that you're basically you're drafting various tiles.
Mm-hmm.
There are different types of buildings, offices, subways, parks, homes, and you're placing them in your town. And the way in which you place them, what you place them adjacent to, the order that you place them, etc., gets you certain amounts of points that you then
Suburbia?
use. No. Oh, wow. No. Well, yeah, sort of, but no. But they're square tiles. It's a grid. It's really pretty close to, say, a quadropolis.
Oh, okay.
Or Between Two Cities.
Mm-hmm. Between Two Cities was the other one that was coming to mind.
But some differences. And really, I mean, very, very similar to both of them. There's some differences in terms of how you draft the tiles. The various tiles are in different piles associated with different symbols that are on your map. So if you place on a particular spot on your board, it will dictate which of these sets of tiles you're able to draw from, and you can see what you're actually drafting, I guess. And so that was interesting. There's some random mid-game scoring that can occur as you're revealing new tiles, which was kind of interesting. I think this was kind of a fine, lighter filler game. It didn't seem to really tread any new territory for me. And I think that Quadropolis is a much better production. Not a big fan of Quadropolis, but I could see the appeal for a lot of people. So I kind of feel like you would just probably want to play Quadropolis. And then Between Two Cities at least has the interesting, you're building two different cities and there's the balancing of those. So there's that kind of added aspect to the game. Ultimately, the art's really nice. I think it's a good game. I think it's a fine game. So
is it a ducal fine?
It's a ducal fine.
Oh boy.
And I think if your play group is playing a lot more lighter filler games, then this might be more up your alley. But I wasn't terribly thrilled by it. So that is Bloomtown from Sidekick Games, Alex.
Very good. Well, Sean, just the other night, I got in a play of a game called Chocolate Factory. There were two games on the table that were factory related. Fantastic Factories, which I talked about recently, and as I think you've talked about before, is fantastic.
It is.
And then this game, which is by Alley Cat Games, designed by, and I don't know if you'll recognize these names off of me reading them, but Matthew Dunstan and Brett J. Gilbert.
Yeah. Elysium.
Elysium is exactly right, Sean. An underrated gem, in my opinion. One that I've returned to actually more than maybe expected, and one that I'd love to see an expansion for at some point. I don't actually own it, but it was in the Monochromatic Wolf Play Experiences collection. Oh, wait, just kidding. It's Grey Fox Games. I can say that now. So this is a game about, well, running a chocolate factory. It's you start each round drafting, so you're going to draft special, unique employees, and then also factory parts that improve how your factory will operate. So, for instance, in this game, you'll draft one of each round. During the actual turns of the game, which everyone does simultaneously, you run your factory, and that consists of pushing basically a cocoa bean onto the conveyor belt. There's a little conveyor belt board that you have, and that will come on, and then you can use either of the machine that's on top of that spot on the conveyor belt or the one below, or both on that cocoa bean to transform it into something else, to refine it and make it into a better form of chocolate. You can eventually make it into bars, or you can make it into boxed chocolate or wrapped up candies like special truffles. There's all sorts of funky things you can end up turning it into, and the whole point of the game is to create efficiencies, is to try and set up a situation where I can turn this into a candy, and then I can turn this candy into 2 boxed chocolates, and so on and so forth from there. You are going to run 3 shifts each time, so you'll be kind of pushing 3 new beans onto the line each round. And at the end of each round, you are going to either sell to specific specialty stores, or you're going to sell to your own personal corner stores, and you'll get dollars for doing so. If you sell to a specific kind of specialty store, it can only be one that's associated with an employee that you've drafted that round. You'll get points if you sell the most to a certain store. So a store might be asking for basically Kit Kat bar type of things. And at the end of the game, if I've sold the most, I'll get a bonus. But if I've also sold to every single store, I'll get a special bonus as well. Those special corner stores in front of you, you can sell to too. It's really cool. And Sean, I think this would be one you would actually really, really, really dig. There's a lot of really cool efficiencies, and I felt way over my head during the course of this game, but I was able to recover and ended up losing to Jamie's girlfriend Megan by 1 point. It was like 124 to 123 or something very close like that. But really satisfying, this conveyor belt mechanic of kind of pushing things along and having to plan things out, drafting the right parts to create efficiencies, getting the employee and using them to their maximum potential. It's really well done. It's really well done. The only complaints I would really have are kind of some of the components were a little more limited than I'd like. But honestly, this was a ton of fun, Sean, and one that I think you should give a try if you see it around Empire anytime soon.
Yeah, I just took a look at it on BGG, some of the pictures. I was kind of underwhelmed by the table presence of it. Like, it was kind of drab looking, but I mean, based on what you described and those designers, it certainly sounds like something I might enjoy. So yeah, I'll definitely keep my eye out for that.
It felt thematic, and I could see some of what you're saying. Certainly, the conveyor belt isn't the most visually eye-catching, but for what it needs to do, it's certainly functional enough. And the little wooden bits that represent the different upgraded pieces of candy are really, really nice and satisfying and worth playing with. It's a solid one. It's a really solid one, and one I'd like to play more of. So that's Chocolate Factory from Alley Cat Games.
All right. Well, the last one I will talk about is an interesting play experience. I'm gonna refrain from mentioning the title just yet. Alex, we've talked a number of times on the show about an incident in a game of diplomacy about 10 years ago where my buddy Andy, Andrew to the rest of you, flicked a lit cigarette in our other buddy Mitch's face after like 10 hours of play, and it's a great story, and the scar is pretty much all but gone now. This play experience that I had a couple weeks ago at Extra Life, I was worried was going to reach that level. Fortunately, nobody in the group smoked, so it wouldn't have gotten there, but it probably could have had like, a chair over someone's back, or who knows. Alex, have you heard of or seen people talk on social media about a GMT game called Ancient Civilizations of the Inner Sea?
I have literally never heard of this game.
Okay. And based on that title alone, that's not something you would ever seek out.
No, I think it's especially just the acronym GMT alone is often enough to drive me away.
Right. So this is a game that I was pretty excited for. I did not P500 this one, but as soon as it came out and P500 a couple months ago, I saw it all over social media. People were having a blast with it. I looked into it, sounded really cool. It's a civilization-ish game. There's not really like a tech tree. Matthew described it in such a way that basically it's like Small World, but on crack. And I think I was kind of dismissive of that description at the time, but in retrospect, I'm like, no, I think he's actually kind of right. So you are taking over a civilization around the Mediterranean. So there's the Romans, there's Gauls, there's Hannibal. Who's Hannibal? Hannibal in the where did Hannibal come from?
Carthaginians?
Yeah, the Carthaginians. There you go. See,
is that right? Did I actually get that right?
No, you got that right.
Okay.
I couldn't remember the name of the Carthaginians. Anyway, the Egyptians. Anyway, so you have your little home area. It's this map of the Mediterranean. Basically, all of the land areas around the Mediterranean, and then islands in the Mediterranean itself. And you have like 50 colored discs that represent not necessarily your military. It can be military, but it also represents your culture. So if you have one disc on a space, it is it's a small group. If you have two, it's a settlement. Three, it's a city. Settlements will give you additional discs so you could spread out. Cities will give you points, and ultimately you're trying to get the most points over a certain number of eras or epochs, I guess. And in a lot of ways, it's a really simple game. At the start of each round, you're going to get new discs equal to the number of settlements that you have divided by 2, also equal, or maybe it's straight up. I can't remember off the top of my head now, but also for various sea spaces that you occupy and some other bonuses. If you're trading with someone, if you're nearby someone, you'll get bonuses. And then you're basically just able to place these discs out on the board. You can bolster things you already have. You can turn certain settlements into cities, or you can expand outwards into adjacent spaces and kind of start spreading out. You can place them in adjacent spaces where the opponents are, which is going to create conflict that you'll eventually have to resolve. So everyone's going to do that. They expand out, build up their forces, and then there's a round of card play. So you have a ton of cards in this shared deck, and the cards are going to say various things like remove discs from the map equal to 3 or whatever from certain types of spaces, or add discs to certain types of spaces. All sorts of crazy card play is happening, and it can be kind of swingy, and it can be kind of out of nowhere. There are cards that make people like discard cards and like discard their hand and draw back up, or don't draw back up and end the round. And it was very swingy. When I first read the rules, it was pretty straightforward, made a lot of sense, but you can't really get a feel for the game unless you really get a feel for all of the cards that you're playing. And I watched a video that GMT put out from, I think, one of the designers. And one of the things that I remember him saying was, well, you can kind of play this in different ways. And if you want to play this more aggressively, you can play this aggressively, but it doesn't have to be an aggressive game. It's not necessarily a war game. And that's kind of what I told everybody. Hey, this is kind of a Civ game, and yeah, there'll be some war, but it's easy to kind of rebuild. Don't worry about it. Oh no, this game was super aggressive and super mean and super cutthroat, and everyone was super pissed off at everybody this entire game. And didn't help that we were all pretty hangry. We didn't eat right away, and it was probably like 3:00 before we finally got food. We started at like 11, and we played through, and we were all pissed. It was me, Matthew, Jeremy, and Jared. Who am I missing? I think that's, and so everything just pissed everyone off, and we were getting snippy with each other and short with each other because it didn't quite meet our expectations. We kind of thought it was going to be a little bit more of a relaxed game, and it turned out to, just like I said, be incredibly cutthroat, and it left kind of a sour taste in our mouths. After we were done, we actually played in my office, and then we went over to Empire for the rest of Extra Life. And after we'd all kind of eaten and calmed down, I think we had reevaluated. This was not a game for Matthew by any stretch, but he could kind of appreciate it. The rest of us were kind of like, okay, this was okay. We were okay with it now that we know what to expect. And it's the combat's dead simple, right? So if I have 4 pieces in a spot and you have 3 pieces, Alex, you have, as having the fewer pieces, you're going to remove one of your pieces first, and then I remove one of mine. If it comes down to I have 2, you have 1, you'll remove your 1 piece first because you have fewer, and then I won't remove any because now you have nothing there, if that makes sense. So it's really simple, and the card play is really simple. But yeah, it was a weird experience, and we were all pretty short with each other. Don't ever play this, Alex.
Nope, wasn't planning on it. Doesn't sound fun.
No, but if you do, play with Matthew, because the 2 of you together would be just wonderful. So
yeah, no thanks.
Okay.
On any of those things.
That's Ancient Civilizations in the Inner Sea. I am looking forward to trying this again with a group where we're all kind of expecting this kind of crazy swingy game, because it just wasn't what we expected. And that's fine as long as everyone kind of goes into it knowing that. So Ancient Civilizations in the Inner Sea by GMT. Check it out.
Awesome. All right, that's going to do it for our recent plays. No news this week because we're recording early. Let's head on over to a short word from our sponsors before we get to our top 6 list of the week. Hey, Sean. They say Rome wasn't built in a day, but you can lay down a foundation pretty quickly. In a day? Do you think in a day? You can lay down a foundation in a day?
I think less than a day. I don't think it's going to be that long of a game, Alex. I think it's a game length you'd at least play.
Oh, that's good, because I'm pretty limited in that scope. Yeah, Foundations of Rome, coming soon from Arcane Wonders on Kickstarter. And Sean, you have seen this one before, and you've been excited by this one before.
Yes, Alex. This has some incredibly crafted, beautiful architectural miniatures, different distinct architectural styles for the different players. It creates this fantastic looking cityscape that really has to be seen to believe. The city building board game Foundations of Rome puts you into the role of an architect competing to own land and build magnificent structures. Build damus and insulae, fountains, wineries, and stables, then increase your renown by constructing majestic monuments such as a temple to Jupiter or the Colosseum itself. With over 100 wonderfully detailed miniatures, Foundations of Rome is a testament to the glory of Rome that you can bring to your table.
That looks pretty cool, and it's done by a pretty awesome designer in Emerson Matsuuchi, who has done a number of other Dutchy favorites. So, yeah, if you're curious about this game, go to foundationsofrome.com, click on the sign-up link to sign up and get notified when it goes live on Kickstarter. Arcane Wonders, it's never a blunder when you go with Arcane Wonders. Toptonia. Table share.
Oh, Alex. Yeah. So,
Well, I was trying to sing the national anthem of Game Topper Nation.
Yeah.
It didn't work too well, but we're gonna keep this ad going anyway.
So yeah, Alex, Game Topper Nation.
Yeah.
We've talked quite a bit about GameToppersLLC.com. You can like them and follow them on Facebook, but there's also Game Topper Nation, which you can join to basically show off your game toppers. Not only show them off, but look at other people's game toppers so you can see how fantastic these amazing toppers are for playing some of your favorite board games. Plus, Berkey, our buddy Berkey, uses it for polls. Like if, hey, we need new playmats. What would you guys like to see in terms of new playmats? And he throws them out there so you can help him figure out what everyone's gonna want to see on the latest new playmats. Alex, Alex, you are an honorary citizen of the Game Topper Nation because you have a Game Topper.
I do indeed. I just officially joined Game Topper Nation Facebook group and have been informed by Facebook that a passport is already on its way.
Oh, perfect.
I'm a dual citizen, Sean, of both the United States and of Game Topper Nation.
Well, if you could only keep one citizenship, Alex, which would that be?
It would be a close call. Because on one hand, you get to vote on fantastic polls on the future of Game Toppers, and the other, just all of the, citizenship benefits of being a United States citizen.
So head on over to Facebook to check out Game Topper Nation, and head on over to their website, GameToppersLLC.com.
All right, Sean, this was an idea that I pitched to you a couple of weeks ago, and without modification, you were like, yeah, sounds good to me. Sounds great. What neither of us did, and we never do this, Sean, is actually consult on what we mean fully by the list. So it's highly possible we use different methodology and different criteria for this. But the concept of the list is of games released in the past 5 years, and the metric I used for that was games from 2015 through 2019, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19.
Same.
Yep. And what of those games do you think are most likely to be on the table 10 years from now? Not necessarily just for my own taste, but just which of those games do you think has the best staying power in that group? Games we'll still be talking about. Now, Sean, I did something unusual in this instance. I actually did some research.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, you prepared? Interesting.
I did prepare, which is unusual for me. What I did was I went back and I looked at 2005 to 2009, which is the same window equivalent for where we are today. And I looked at the top 100 entries on BGG as well as top ranked games. And I kind of parsed through it and got a top 6 list from there, kind of as an example, and then also looked through, what happened with some of the others that maybe didn't have as much staying power. So the 6 I picked out of that list of games released from 2005 to 2009, Pandemic, obviously, still around and kicking, even in its vanilla form, although you see more of the variants these days. Cards Against Humanity, it seemingly will never leave us. Cards Against Humanity. Galaxy Trucker, I put on there. That's the one I was least sure about, really, but I've seen it certainly on the table, and I've played it in recent years. Certainly the app has kept that one popular. Wits and Wagers is one that has certainly been a solid con game, is still played in game show form, and I think still hits the table, though maybe less so in the hobby. The Resistance definitely still gets played in the hobby. And Dominion was the last one I picked up on. Although it seems to have faded at least a little bit. Sean, how do those 6 strike you?
So I guess what I found interesting then is, based on a bit what you said before and the games themselves, this is more of an objective list as far as you're concerned, not a subjective Alex and his playgroup list.
That's correct. Yeah, that's how I approach this.
Well, I did not take it that way at all.
Excellent. Well, that's going to be fun. One of the things I also did was I looked at other games in the top 100, and I broke down, did they have staying power, and if so, to what degree, and why might they not have if they didn't? So another one that was released during that time frame in the top 100 on BGG, Twilight Struggle. And I certainly still see this one at cons. I haven't seen it a ton necessarily, but it definitely still pops up on the table. Was featured on the South Park episode recently. Brest Lancashire recently revived. That one still played for sure. Agricola feels like it got replaced by Caverna and some other games. I don't know if I see Agricola itself that often. Do you, Sean?
No, not necessarily.
Through the Ages certainly still lives on in the form of its app. I also still see that one being taught by CGE at convention after convention. I think that one's had at least some amount of staying power. Le Havre is still well regarded as especially if you're a heavier UVA player. That's one that is stuck around. Race for the Galaxy easily could have made that top 6 list I mentioned before. That is definitely still played. Kalis, I have never played or seen on the table. Have you played Kalis?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah, not in real life, but on Board Game Arena a couple times.
All right. Twilight Imperium 3rd edition, there's a new version. The game itself has lasted, though the original version of that was before the window I'm talking about even. Battlestar Galactica, I still see played. That was one we used to play all the time in the early days of the podcast, Sean.
Yeah.
That one has stuck around. And then Stone Age. That one, I have seen some 10th anniversary stuff for that. I haven't seen it on the table as much, at least in the groups I've been around. Possibly because at Grey Fox, a lot of folks thought Champions replaced it. That's certainly a comment someone on this podcast made at one point.
At one point.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Others that I spotted that didn't have any specific thoughts: Small World, Dixit, Arkham Horror, The Resistance. I already mentioned The Resistance. Jaipur, Formula Day, Quirkle, and Telestrations were other ones that were in that time frame that have had at least some amount of staying power or remain notable, at least to me. But there was more there than I thought there was going to be. So that was actually a pretty healthy time period for games, and some of them have certainly lasted. But yeah, the main reason this idea came up was thinking about the hobby feels so impermanent in so many ways. There's just such an absolute flood of games. And we talk about this all the time in reviews. I like this now. I don't know if I'll be playing this a year from now. And there are some games that are 4s that drop immediately a year from then. And then there are some 4s that still stay 4s, but are still played and come to the table and hit the table a lot. Sean, what do you think it takes for a game to have good, solid staying power in your book?
Well, okay. I mean, from an objective standpoint, like you're talking about, or
talk about it from whatever standpoint you want, Sean.
Well, no, I mean, because we're doing two different things, which it's never happened before. So I think it needs to have a certain amount of replayability and variability, obviously. And I think it can be certainly experiential. I think that can help, where you remember certain play experiences and you crave recreating those.
Mm-hmm.
I think that definitely can happen. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I'm a little caught off guard because I wasn't looking at it in from a philosophical standpoint.
Well, then let's let me get to a guild comment, and then I want to hear your thoughts on what has it stay for you, because that'll be the main focus of your list anyway.
Sure.
Christopher John said, it generally seems like abstract games have more, quote, staying power than most others. In the oldies but goodies category, I'm thinking of Blockus, Hive, Can't Stop. Newer examples might be Clask, War Chest, and Santorini. And I think a game that is replayable but not necessarily tied to a theme or story. Obviously, Pandemic Legacy is not going to fit the bill for this. You're not going to be playing Pandemic Legacy Season 1 if you've already played through the campaign 10 years from now. Not that the experience doesn't hold up, just it's one and done, right? You play through the campaign, it's over. But there are some games that stick in your brain. I don't know if experiential, I guess experiential in the sense that party games, I think, can also linger around longer on this list. Games that you can play with groups. And I think games that have some amount of being easier to teach can help stick around. So
yes.
What for you, Sean, is a game that will have it stick on your table longer?
Well, like what's one of the games? Like, you want me to go over my list?
No. Like give an example of what kind of game has staying power for you. A game that you might play now and then want to play 10 years from now. Not a specific game, but just examples of kind of the characteristics or qualities.
Okay, well, let me look at my list here. So I don't know. I don't know that I can. I don't know that I can tell you what unifies these games. And let me tell you why. Because my methodology was very different. I looked at games 2015 to 2019, obviously. And Steve O'Rourke, the name father on the guild, said that something that he would want to play, for him, it would need to be games that he would want to play like 2 to 3 times a year. Which I like that. I opened it up a bit to at least once a year.
Yeah.
And then I also took off games that have been recently on a top 10 of all time of mine. So not necessarily just this last year, but the last couple of years, because there are games like Terraforming Mars, Motainai, Scythe that would all fit the bill. And I didn't just want it to be a list of sixes from the last 5 years.
Well, and for my purposes, that's Baseball Highlights 2045 is not appearing on this list. First mentioned, by the way, is not appearing on this list for that very reason, but also because I'm looking at it more objectively as best I can.
Sure. And so what I did was I went to BGG. I did the advanced search. I looked for games from 2015 to 2019. I ranked them in order, and I looked at the top 3,000, and I identified 9 games, or I guess 8 games technically, that I could see myself playing 5-10 years from now, and having played them fairly often in the interim, like coming out at least once a year or more. So I can't really say that I had any unifying characteristics. It's just what I could envision happening given me, my play group, Raquel, future Chewy, who knows?
Future Chewy. I think that's a perfectly fair way of doing it. I think actually some of the guild in giving their answers was taking that approach too. So I don't think it's necessarily wrong that you took that approach. It just reflects our utter lack of communication, which happens from time to time. Anyway, all right. Do you want to jump into the list then?
Yeah. So I'd say I have 2 runners up, and they're both pretty light card games. They would be Fuji Flush, which I've played a good amount of, and it's a stupid game, but it's super fun. Played it at holidays, and it's super easy to teach, and it's fast, and it's So that I could see playing that a couple times a year, probably usually around the holidays with more non-gamers. The other one would be Fox in the Forest, which is a fantastic 2-player trick-taking game that I've played with a whole bunch of people. Raquel and I will play it here at the house. We've played on Duke's of Dice game night, and I love trick-taking games. And it's hard to play a bunch of trick-taking games with people of comparable skill level that know the game well enough, because that's really important. And so it's nice that it's just a 2-player game, and yeah, so that's what I got. Any runners up as far as you're concerned?
Yeah. So and let me comment on yours. I think Fox in the Forest is a great pick. That's one that has. It's hard to think of something else doing 2-player trick-taking better than that game does it. I just played it with Abby the other night. She loves it. Art's gorgeous. It's simple, small, plays great. I think that's a fantastic pick. Fuji Flush is an interesting one. I have played that once recently at a convention, but not a ton recently. And I don't know if 10 years from now I'll still have that one. I'll see that one on the table. But yeah, I think both are potentially really interesting. I have 5 runners up four runners up that I thought of. Star Wars Rebellion is one that I could see as the Star Wars brand kind of continues to stick in people's mind. That 2-player nature of it seems to be one that people really, really dig. So that one seems to be a good fit. Isle of Skye, I think, has that abstracty element to it, and I think can be one within the hobby that has a lot of staying power. As much as I'd like it to go away, I don't think Exploding Kittens is going anywhere anytime soon. So I think that's one that was definitely close to making the list for me. And then I put Root, and I'm not sure if Root's going to be around 10 years from now. I think it probably will be, but I'm just not 100% on that one. So in any case, those are some runners up for me, Sean.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's dive on in.
Number 6.
My number 6 technically counts as being a game from the last 5 years, even though in its original form it was published in the 70s, I think. 70s, early 80s. I think it was 70s. From Restoration Games, it's Downforce.
Okay, yeah.
So Downforce is a racing and betting game. It's like Formula One racing. There's an auction for 6 different cars, and you have a hand of cards, and you're taking turns playing cards to move these cars around the racetrack. It's kind of mean because there's cutting people off and boxing people in, and then at certain preset points in the race, you're making bets on who you think is going to win place and show, and how good you are at making those guesses will affect your end payout. And this gets played several times a year. It's pretty easy to teach. It plays a good number of players. You can play it at 5 or 6, no problem. You can play it at fewer. And I can see, especially as new maps come out and expansions come out, I could see this coming out at least once a year, possibly more. It is amazing how simple this game is, how easy it is to teach, and how rewarding it is for what it is.
I have been amazed at how often I find myself playing that game, Sean.
Yeah.
All the time. And it works well at so many different player counts. It doesn't take very long to play. The rules aren't very hard. It appeals to a lot of people, and it just really works really well. The expansions are great for it too, so there's more content coming. But even just vanilla Downforce, I think, is still plenty interesting enough for folks. So, I think that's a great pick. I hadn't even thought of that one, but that's a really solid one. Good job, Sean.
Hooray!
Hooray! My number 6 is one that I mentioned earlier in this episode as one that I intend to bring on the cruise with me. And I found this one has been more accessible than I realized. And just people seem to really love it. Welcome to. For folks who don't know, this is a neighborhood building game, I guess is the best way you could describe it. It's flip and fill. So you have 3 different cards you're going to pick from. The cards have numbers on them. The numbers are paired with abilities. You're going to pick one set. The game can play anywhere from 1 to 100. It's effectively multiplayer solitaire. I guess with the goals, there's some element of watching other people to see when they reach the goals and when they don't. But it from the first time I played it to now, it has continued to impress, be engaging, and it's fantastic. So Welcome to is one I think has some staying power, especially seeing the new pads that have come out. And I think it will only grow in popularity, oddly. So, yeah, that's Welcome to, my number 6.
Number 5.
All right, my number 5. And Sean, I almost had a conflict of interest on this next title,
Jeez.
but I finished runner-up, so I don't have to worry about my conflict of interest on this title. And that is a game. Can you guess which one I'm thinking of, Sean? From this particular company, which I will name shortly. That you know?
Viticulture?
No, not Viticulture.
Oh, no, that's too old. That's way too old. I guess Psy then.
Wingspan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
I think Wingspan is going to be one that is going to stick around in large part because it has attracted an audience that is at least compared to your average board game within the hobby, has seemed to grab the attention of a lot of female fans. Jamie noted that his demographic survey had double the respondents who were women compared to the year before, and he attributes that to Wingspan and success. He had just mentioned the other day, I don't want to say the magazine because I don't know if it's public, but a major magazine is about to pick this up in the coming days. It's already been in the New York Times, Audubon Society. It doesn't feel like a passing phase either. It feels like this is sort of the authoritative bird game, and I think it's going to be sticking around a lot for that reason. So I don't know. Wingspan strikes me as one that 10 years from now you will still see around. So that's my number 5.
All right. Well, my number 5 is not going to get the same agreement from you, Alex, that my number 6 did.
Ooh.
In fact, it's going to get strong opposition. Probably some of the strongest opposition you could possibly give to a game.
Uh-oh.
Because my number 5 is Food Chain Magnet.
Oh, no. How could you?
So this is a splatter game that and this is probably a cheat. The fact that it made it onto the list, it's a slight cheat because I don't think I've played it in the last year, but I've thought a lot about it. Because I love this game. So this is a pretty cutthroat economic game that you're basically running a 1950s-ish food chain franchise, trying to hire staff, train your staff, upgrade them through some interesting card play, upgrading of cards, and then you're producing food, advertising it, and trying to bring people in from the neighborhood to get your nice $9 burger to undercut someone else's $10 burger, And man, this game is super good, and I super love it, and I super enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy cutthroat games, then do not play this game. But it's something that I could see myself playing at least once a year. This last year notwithstanding, it's a great game for some heavier gamers at a convention, and it's just so good, and I really enjoy it quite a bit. I'm very excited for the new catch-up expansion that should be available soon if it's not already available. So, any chance you'll come around on Food Chain Magnate, Alex?
Game is trash.
Wow.
It is trash. It is
Wow.
pure hot garbage, and you will find some other terrible game to replace it 10 years from now.
Okay. Well, I think it's a 2015 game? So I mean it's if it is, it's already made it about 5 years for me.
Well, and I noticed that on the list that it was hard to put a 2019 game on this list because there's so many that are within that range that have already proven they can hang around for a few years, and so it's easier to imagine them lasting longer. So
Right.
yeah, in any case.
Yeah, Food Chain Magnate is a 2015 game. So
There you go.
just saying. All right, well that's my number 5, Food Chain Magnate.
Number 4.
My number 4, Alex, is another game that, using your criteria, probably would not be a game that has staying power. But for me, this game will have staying power. And this is a newer game. This is it technically a 2019 game? I think it is. Or no, maybe it's 2018. Anyway, it's Space Corp.
Space Court. You mean Space Court?
I don't mean Space Court. Again, I'm developing that right now.
Guilty, Your Space Honor.
Space Corp is a GMT game that is a pretty straightforward space exploration game over 3 eras. First era is the Mariners, where you're going out to Mars, basically. And then it's the solar system, and then it's a Starfarers type 1 where you're going out to the 15 light years around the Sol system. And it uses a pretty simple card playing mechanic where you're trying to collect certain cards that are multiples of certain actions. So it's almost like a more advanced Ticket to Ride in that set collection aspect where you're trying to move or to build or to research or whatever. And man, I've played this so many times. The first time you teach people this game, it's going to be a long game. It's going to be like 3-4 hours. But it's worth it because eventually, if you've played this enough times, our third play at 3 players, Alex, we were able to do in 90 minutes, which is pretty solid. It's a lot of game packed into a pretty short period of time. But then I've played a bunch of other teaching games after that, and they've been longer. But I think, especially with expansions that are coming out for it, I've already P500 the new expansion. This just scratches an itch, right? There's a game like High Frontier that is super advanced, literally designed by a rocket scientist, that is just meaty and difficult and not accessible at all to new players. And this kind of scratches that itch. It's shorter, it's not nearly as involved, but it meets that requirement for a fun space exploration game that feels a little science-y. I really enjoy it, and I can see myself playing this for quite a long time. So that is my number 4, Space Corp.
I would like to try this game.
I think you would like it. I think you're gonna kick and scream the whole time once we hit like hour 2.5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think you'll have some appreciation for it. And so if we were to do it, it would need to be 3 players, and the third player would need to be someone who's already played a bunch, so that if anyone's taking time, it's you, and that's on you, Alex.
Got it. Yep. And that's just something I'll have to live with. Yep. Fair enough.
Yes, indeed.
Well, very good. My number 4 is a Spiel des Jahres winner, and one that has already seen enough sequels to it that it's hard for me to believe that there won't be another 10 or 15 by the time we get to 10 years from now. And that game is Azul, Sean. And I think this is one that, again, fits that criteria of being abstract, has a good amount of replayability, easy to teach, looks great on the table, hobby game with some mass market appeal. And I feel like it can be kind of in that splendor category, that it's just one of those games that just sticks around. You'll just see it on the table a bunch because it's a great way to introduce people to games. And so I think even 10 years from now, you will see Azul or some form of it on the tables. And yeah, that's a game to me that is quintessential staying power, almost as much staying power as the other three ahead of it on my list. That one sound like one that you think will be around in 10 years, Sean?
Yeah, in fact, it was a contender. I wouldn't call it a runner-up, but it was one I definitely gave some deep consideration to.
Yeah, fair enough.
I enjoy it quite a bit. I think it's a great gateway game.
Yeah, and I think for that reason, gateway games, if they're done well, if they can kind of stand out in the way that Azul stands out, can last, can stick around a while.
Sure.
So yeah, that's Azul, my number 4.
Number 3.
My number 3 will be controversial among some who are foolish within the hobby, but I think it is completely uncontroversial because this is another game that is dirt simple to teach, but has catches people immediately, is unbelievably divisive in the hobby. But I think because of the short nature of it and its ability to connect to people and its ease of teach and the fact that it plays well at cons, but also plays well not at cons.
Guess what? It's my number 3 too.
Is it really?
It is.
The Mind?
The Mind.
Oh, man. On the same page.
We totally lined up like in The Mind.
Whoa.
We had a mind meld.
How many points did we get for that?
1,000.
1,000 points.
Space points. Yep.
That's pretty good. That's a lot of space points.
I mean, yeah, it's a lot of space points.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah.
That's all we're saying about it.
Is there anything else you wanted to add on that?
Well, okay. Well, so for those that don't know, and this is one of your top 10 games of all time. Was it number 2?
Yeah,
3,
somewhere up there.
1,
It's high
7?
on the list.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a deck of cards, 1 to 100, and each round you are getting a hand of increasing cards. So first round, 1 card, second round, 2 cards, and you are trying to lay these cards out in sequential order, but without actually making any sort of verbal communication as to what you have. So if I have a 77 and Alex, you have a 76, boy, we're gonna have to figure out how to put these down in the right order. And no, it is fantastic, and I've had a ton of fun playing this with a bunch of people. I did a YouTube video with Mariah a couple months ago, where we were eating super hot chicken wings while we played this game. Super hot.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. And it's great. And yeah, this is going to get played a bunch. Yeah, certainly there are people that say this is not a game. They are wrong. It's a ton of fun. And it's very interesting that it was both of our number 3s.
It is definitely hard to believe that won't be a thing 10 years from now. Even it's one of the biggest locks on my list. I feel like, because it does something so uniquely and so simply. Yeah, it may be in a different form. It may have new art or whatever else, but no, I think this is one that's a lock, and I think there's a reason it's on both of our lists. So yeah, very good.
Yeah, our shared number 3, The Mind.
Number 2.
Well, my number 2, Alex, I think you're going to agree with this one, and it's actually by the exact same designer as The Mind, Wolfgang Warsch.
Oh, Quacks?
Quacks.
Oh, yeah.
Quacks of Quedlinburg. Man, this game is stupid good. It is a push your luck game, bag building game where you have these different ingredients to build this potion, and you're pulling them out, and you're going around this little spiral track. The farther along you get, the more purchase power you're going to have to get new ingredients, and the more points you're going to get. But there are these bad cherry blossoms that, as you pull them out, if they reach a certain threshold in value, you bust. Your potion explodes, and then you don't get all the benefits that you would otherwise. And man, it is super fun. We've taught this to new players. We've played this with experienced gamers. I just got the expansion, talked about that a couple weeks ago, and it is just so much fun. I'm super bad at this game. I won my first game, and then I've never, in like 10, 12 plays since then, I've never won. So still another newer game on the list, because this is what, 2018, 2017?
Yeah,
game?
pretty new.
Little more recent, but I can see myself bringing this out quite a bit, especially now that there's a 5-player expansion. Man, I love Quacks of Quedlinburg, and I will be happy to play it 10 years from now.
Here's okay, this is going to sound petty or silly. I think this is a game that might be around 5 years from now.
Oh,
But I think 10 years from now, it's going to be more forgotten about. You might see it like in the library at a convention, but I don't know if you'll see it out on the table quite as much. I could be dead wrong on that one, but I think it may be more like a Colt Express, which I've just seen less and less and less and less of. I don't know. It's my gut instinct. I could be dead wrong. It's a fantastic game. I don't have any quibbles with the game. It just doesn't. I don't know if it has the staying power. That's all.
all right.
Yep.
All right.
It's my turn.
Yeah, you're up.
Oh, I'm up.
Two,
My number 2. Okay, here we go. All right, my number 2, and this one it felt like cheating because it's just so obvious. It's one that is existing in a ton of forms. It's another one that's easy to teach, but you will still see late night at conventions for the hobby. It's one that outside of the hobby people seem to know a lot. Like, oh, have you heard of this game? Oh, you have? Oh, okay, interesting. Codenames, Sean, feels completely obvious is a permanent fixture in the hobby. Not just 10 years from now, 20, 30 years from now. It feels like Codenames will still be played and played frequently. It feels like it's going to go down as one of those games that just has infinite staying power. And it was one that you almost kind of knew immediately. It just caught fire when that thing was released. I remember it was it was my first ever convention, but my first ever Dice Tower Con, I believe, was when that came out. And it was that and Mysterium out at the same time. And both of those seemed especially hot, but Codenames, man, that just off of release, people just had to. It just took off. And I have, even though I don't necessarily like base Codenames all that much, I still end up suggesting and playing it more than you would think. And Codenames Duet was one of the first games I ever played with Abby. So, it's I don't know. It just feels permanent. It feels like it's an eternal game within the hobby.
Yeah. And for me, it was one that I would have considered, but it was on my top 10 at one point, like 3 or 4 years ago. So I didn't consider it. And one of my paralegals, she mentioned playing, not really a gamer. She mentioned playing Codenames Harry Potter this weekend.
Oh, cool.
So that's kind of an indication. I will say, Alex, I think you are overestimating its staying power. I don't think it'll be around for 30 years, maybe 29 years, 11 months, but certainly not 30 years.
Oh, yeah, no,
Alex.
certainly not. Unreal. Anyway, that's my number 2.
Number 1.
All right, my number 1 pick, and the main reason this is ahead of Codenames isn't because I think it'll last longer, but because I think the passion for it will be even stronger 10 years from now than it is now. I think it's one that's going to grow in popularity if it's even possible. And it's a game you already mentioned, Sean, and there's a specific reason I think this will grow in popularity. The game I'm talking about is Terraforming Mars.
Oh, yeah.
Which has already had unbelievable staying power.
Yeah.
But I think as the reality of human beings on Mars gets closer, that there's a good likelihood that game will pick up in popularity. It'll be, oh, yeah, you're fascinated with Mars? Oh, hey, check out Terraforming Mars. Hey, check this out. I don't know. I have a feeling that as that becomes a bigger part of the kind of social consciousness, there's a good chance this is the game people will turn to and be inspired to play. And I know it sounds a little crazy to say this game will be even more popular because even several years out, this game has been insanely popular. I remember back when I was in the game group at Empire, literally every single week this would be on the table. And at Grey Fox, literally every single week, just about, there would be a copy of Terraforming Mars on the table. A lot of weeks. It just,
I would,
yeah,
I would say 3 out of 4 weeks still at Duke's Dice Wednesday nights. Easily, there's a copy out. I played Terraforming Mars at Extra Life. I mean, yeah, no, this definitely would have been one. I predict now, Alex, that the third team on Mars will play Terraforming Mars on Mars.
Ooh,
that's my prediction.
Interesting.
Not until the third team though. They're too busy. It's always those first couple, the first couple teams on the moon.
Sure.
Too much stuff to do. But once you get into the third, fourth, fifth team, they can play some golf.
Yeah, you start getting into golf and other little random things that happen. I'd be curious to look up all the other random nonsense we've done on the moon and think about how that might translate to Mars.
Allegedly.
Oh yes, allegedly. Thank you, Sean. Very important that we clarify that. For the crazy, for our more insane listeners.
Well, that was really judgmental, Alex.
It was very judgmental, and I meant it to
very
be.
judgmental.
And I meant it to be judgmental.
We totally landed on the moon. But anyway,
Sean, you said that with a lot of conviction, like you really believe that.
No judgment if you believe otherwise, except we did.
Yeah, except there will be judgment, some significant judgment.
Oh, I'm not judging. I'm just saying, Anyway, Terraforming Mars. Anything else to say about it, Alex?
No, that's my number one pick. Not because I think it's as eternal as something like Codenames, but because I think it will be more popular than it is now 10 years from now. For gameplay alone, and also for just the culture of the time. That's my prediction, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, my number one, I think, will also get your approval, Alex, which is really all I want in life.
Good.
I mean, I'm constantly thinking, to what extent is Alex going to approve of this thought or action? That's all I think about.
Excellent.
It is Clank.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
So Clank is a deck building game from Renegade Game Studios, and you are doing kind of typical deck building stuff where you're getting some victory points into your deck, and you're, getting new cards and getting new abilities. But what's really cool is that there is a board manipulation component where you're basically moving around a dungeon in the base game. Try not to make too much noise, because every now and then the dragon's going to wake up and you're going to pull some random cubes from a bag. And if your color's drawn, you're going to take some damage and you might get killed. Also, at a certain point, a player might leave the dungeon because they've gained one of the artifacts that everyone's there to get. And once that happens, it kind of sets a countdown clock. And if you don't get out in time, then you're out of the game. Or no, you're not out of the game. You just don't get bonus points. But anyway, it's a ton of fun, and there's a ton of expansions. There's now this Acquisitions Incorporated Clank Legacy game. I really enjoy it, and I've enjoyed how easy it is to teach. It's a game that Mariah really likes. It's a game that Raquel really likes. And it's a game that heavier gamers like myself really like. So I really like Clank, and I play it at least 4 or 5 times a year since it's come out pretty consistently. And I could see myself, in many ways, this is now my go-to deck building game. I will not go back to like a Dominion, let's say. Star Realms is a different kind of deck building game. It's more of the dual, kind of like an Ascension or something like that. So I kind of have 2 classifications of deck builders. And games like Baseball Highlights, I don't consider to be true deck builders. They're tactical card games
with deck building elements. Yes.
Right. So yeah, Clank. It's fantastic, and I could see it being played 10 years from now, or will be 8 years. Alex, you tell me.
Closer to 8. For me, I found myself less inclined to play this. It's certainly been an option in some cases, but it hasn't been not playing it, and I've certainly seen it on the table at conventions. So I don't think it's a bad pick. It's just not one that struck me necessarily. So yeah, not a bad pick. No, I don't think that's bad at all. I don't know about it as a number 1, but whatever.
It is what it is, Alex. The heart wants what the heart wants.
The heart wants what the heart wants. All right, before we wrap this up, Guild had a couple of other lists on here. Let's run through it. BJ from Board Game Gumbo with Scythe, Baseball Highlights 2045, Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, Azul, Clank, he agreed with you on Clank, and Shadespire, which I have yet to play Shadespire.
Oh, why would you play Shadespire?
Why would I play Shadespire?
Oh, wait. Oh, I'm thinking of... Wait, what am I thinking of?
I don't know what you're thinking of.
Is it the Warhammer one?
I don't know.
Or is it the Chip Theory?
What do I look like? Some sort of guy who knows stuff about things?
Yeah. Warhammer Underworld Shadespire. Yeah, it's a skirmish game that is not something that you would typically enjoy.
Oh, all right. Well, fair enough. But yeah, the other ones on the list, Deception, now that I no longer work for Grey Fox Games, I think is actually a fine pick. I think that's one that certainly has that potential. Anytime you have something that's Clue-esque or has elements of Clue, I think that can help your case. Although, I don't know, it's not always true. Anyway, yeah, good little list there. Sylvain Lacroix also suggested Terraforming Mars, also had Wingspan. Patchwork's a good one. I didn't know if that one fits.
Does that meet the time?
Yeah, I don't know if it fits the time frame. Let me look that up.
You keep reading your list.
All right, Alex. You're going to look that up.
2014, so it's on the cusp.
It's on the cusp, and certainly that's why I kind of clarified at the beginning, last 5 years, meaning the last 5 calendar years, not the range of 2014 to 2019, which would technically be a 6th year, but 5 years ago, time's weird. Anyway, Zaya Legends of a Drift System, interesting. I haven't seen that on the table as much at cons, but it was, as we've told on the podcast before, one of my favorite play experiences ever, because I harassed Sean for the first turn of the game and forced him into doing something he was absolutely not planning on doing. It was great. It was amazing.
It was great.
It was great. War Chest and Raccoon Tycoon. I haven't played Raccoon Tycoon yet, but that one seems to be growing in popularity. I saw that one at, where did I see that? At Essen last year, and seemed to be getting a decent amount of buzz. I have yet to play it though. I hear it's good. Jesse suggested 2. He suggested Batman Gotham City Chronicles. He said if you can get past the rulebook and print some nicer player rates, the game has a ton of replayability. It's really well designed and thematic all the way through. Additionally, it's fun to play either side. If you love Batman, then this is a game that will continually spark joy for you, and no reason to think Batman still won't be popular 10 years from now.
Yeah, that's a safe bet.
And then one I have heard an absolute ton about, and BJ just got to try this recently and says it's fantastic. Detective City of Angels. So similar to the last entry in that there's a lot of replayability, in the fact that there are a dozen plus cases in the box. It's also fun to play both sides. This is perhaps also the best story game I've ever played. Lastly, the art is absolutely incredible. I can't see this one leaving anytime soon. And then finally, the name Father, Just One. I think it's actually maybe a crime that Just One didn't come up on both of our lists. My only hesitancy is just that it came out so recently, but certainly possible that could be around. King Domino, yeah, definitely. Limes, I haven't played. Orchard, a 9-card solitaire game, haven't played. Patchwork as well, and Sprawlopolis. Haven't played half of those, name Father, but they sound fine. They sound just fine. So yeah, that's top 6 staying power games. Anything else you had on this one, Sean?
I think they're all great, Alex. Just great.
Just great. Fantastic. Well, in any case, that is our look at the top 6. Let's head on over to the Duke's Double Take. All right, this week in our Duke's Double Take, we're looking back at episode 189, Inflamado, where we reviewed Fireball Island. Sean, we gave this one the same score, though we were on slightly different pages with this one. I gave this one a 4, and I said the game did what it set out to do. It is a fantastic family game, but I found it hard to recommend for gamers. Sean, you gave this one a high 4. You were very close to giving it a 5, but didn't quite do it. You said it was the go-to for this style of game compared to, say, a Camel Up or a Colt Express. Sean, have you played Fireball Island since our review?
I have, Alex. I've played it several times. However, I have played it with non-gamers because I hadn't really thought to bring it out with gamers. I've played it with Chewie and her cousin.
Oh, okay.
And that's it. Yeah, I do like it and I do enjoy it. Chewie struggles a bit because she can't read the cards. Kindergarten, right?
Man.
But we basically, she plays open-handed, and then I tell her what the card does, and give her the option of what she can do. She likes moving around, and she likes, her favorite thing, once we're done with the game, is to just then drop the marbles a billion times down Vul-Kar, because that's her favorite part, which makes complete sense. So, yeah, I'm curious, what does that mean for its score? And we should mention that Fireball Island from Restoration Games is a remake of the original from the 80s, where basically you are explorers going around this vacuum-formed 3-dimensional island trying to pick up different components that are going to score points in various ways, avoiding all the while these fireballs that are coming from this cool centerpiece that's Vul-Kar, the volcano, and they come rolling down these channels, and if they knock you over, you're going to lose out on some stuff. And once you've gotten a certain number of things, then you can make your way back to the helipad to get off the island and score a bunch of points. I think it's good. And I enjoy it. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be playing with gamers, and I'm trying to figure out if that's going to affect my score, and I think it probably will.
So, and forgot to mention that we rate all games here at the Dukes of Dice on a 6-point scale. So, in giving it both a 4, that is a good game worth playing, just not all the time, belongs in the Dutchie. Pretty solid score, especially for this style of game. Sean, I have not played this since, and I, in some cases, have kind of steered away from wanting to play it since, which shows me something. Unlike Downforce, which I find myself suggesting oftentimes, this is one that does not fit that bill really, for whatever reason. And honestly, I think it's well produced. I'd still recommend it as a family game. It has great table presence, but at least for me and my taste personally, it's going to drop from a 4 to a 3. Game is okay, not exciting. We'll play in the right situation. I will certainly play this in the right situation, and I still think it does what it sets out to do really well. But it's just not one that I found myself that excited or interested in playing, and I think that is telling. Sure. That's telling for me. So, that's it's going to drop from a 4 to a 3, and it wasn't that hard to think about, honestly. What about for you, Sean?
So I'm going to struggle a little bit more than you, because I think at this point, it's here for Chewy, because she really enjoys it, and she asks for it. She asks to play the island game, as she calls it. So looking at the scores, 3 is game is okay, not exciting, will play in the right situation. 4 is a good game, worth playing, just not all the time, belongs in the duchy. So I'm leaning towards will play in the right situation. That situation is with Chewy. But if I want to play it with Chewy, then it needs to be in the duchy, which would make it a 4. And so I feel like we have a terrible paradox here, Alex.
Oh, no.
That is threatening the space-time continuum.
It sounds like a 4 more to me. Worth playing, just not all the time. Sounds like it fits better.
Yeah, I think it's a 4. And I still want to play this with maybe non-gamers, adults, maybe add a little libations along with it. We think we kind of referenced that. I think that might be kind of fun. You get knocked over. Uh-oh. I don't know when that's going to happen. It's not like we have people over for wild, raucous
bacchanals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna keep it at a 4. I wouldn't call it a high 4 anymore, but I'll keep it at 4. Good game, worth playing, just not all the time. Belongs in the duchy because I do want access to it.
All right, fair enough. The guild is all over the place on this one, Sean. Kind of in the same range. Our episode namer, Steve Paltrineri, said, I played Fireball Island a few times and always considered it a 3 at best. It's a fun but completely forgettable experience. I've never considered buying it, but I'll play it if there's nothing else being offered.
And then BJ from Board Game Gumbo said, the anticipation of playing Fireball Island was better than the actual play. That being said, the base game and just one expansion at a time has been a lot of fun. When we tried adding everything else in, it just turned what should be a quick beer and pretzels fun game into a bloated, hot mess where there was almost no interaction at all. It's a 4 for me, a 5 with the right group, but just a 3 with the Gumbo crew, who said it was overhyped and dull.
And I think right group is important to note. As you mentioned, you playing with Chewy, that's definitely the right group for this. I think, this would certainly be one that I would play with Abby's sister's kids, or other kiddos. This is a good game to teach, and it has great table presence, and it will build lasting memories. As a hobbyist, it's just not necessarily for me. I also don't have the nostalgia factor that a lot of people do with this game too.
Right.
So, Jesse Black says, Fireball Island has been such a fun game to play. The game is lacking a bit in the strategy department, but I don't think I'm pulling this off of the shelf to play it with my heavy Euro friends. It has worked really well with casual gamers or newbies to the hobby. Many of the expansions are must-haves. The Bees and Snakes in particular really add a ton of fun. Everything is highly produced outside of the box itself, which did have some complaints. The art is good, and there's just so much fun and chaos. I've enjoyed this so much that I also got the Broken Token Crate and BGG upgrades, which add a nice touch. Overall, I'm giving this a 5 on the scale for the pure fun and toy factor. And I should say, from a production and just how well done this game is, certainly a 5 or 6 would be a fitting score if I were just scoring off of that.
Sure.
It is stunningly produced, except for the box, which people were annoyed about, and I understand why. So, that's Fireball Island. Goes from a 4 to a 3 for me, and goes from a high 4 for Sean down to a just plain old vanilla, but possible time paradox creating for Sean. All right, before we wrap things up, we got to get you the best of the rest. The best of the rest names for this episode, provided on our Board Game Geek Guild number 2008. First up, Jimmy DM90, and this was, Sean, I think this was universally the runner-up for us this week.
Yeah.
Close, but it's not quite there, Jimmy. But always gives, nice to give me an opportunity to sing. And I will always love you. I'm no Whitney Houston. Oh boy, but I tried, Sean.
I'm just not feeling it, dog.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I'm not sure I'm feeling myself either. You really have to believe if you want to sing that song with any sort of authority. But
that's what they said on Idol. You know, if you're gonna bring out Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey, man, you better rock it.
I maintain though that this was better than whatever I sung last week. I did a better job on this week than I did last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
More because I did really bad last week. Anyway.
All right, and then Ziggy suggested, goodness gracious, 6 balls of fire.
How many?
6.
6. There are 6 balls of fire.
Goodness gracious.
I was trying to make a Star Trek reference, but it wasn't a good one. Anyway.
Oh, there are 4 lights?
Yeah, that was sort of what I was getting at, but it doesn't make any sense. Anyway.
Chain of Command.
All right.
Part 2.
Baker Mitchell with Crystal Ball Island, so referring to our kind of ability to predict 10 years into the future with complete accuracy, and, of course, Fireball Island.
And then a combo effort between Don Gilstrap and Steve O'Rourke, 6 degrees of restoration, tying in with 6 degrees of separation, but also the restoration, because Fireball Island's from Restoration Games.
And I will say this, Don, I'm happy to see you back week after week. I'm happy that after naming an episode, he is more in the fold and continue to suggest names. So keep it up, Don. You're my current favorite namer.
Ooh.
Yeah, I said it.
Spicy.
Take that, everyone else.
Wow.
Well, I mean, or don't. Just it's fine. Anyway, all right. Finally, Jesse Black with Hotshot, Snapshot, and Jackpot. So referring to the Hotshot and Snapshot are referring to Fireball Island. You take snapshots in that game. It's a hotshot when one of those fireballs is rolling your way. And then Jackpot could also refer to Fireball Island, but also refers to a really successful. Yeah, you've hit the jackpot if you hit a game that will still be played by gamers 10 years from now, because there are so many games out these days. So many.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Guild. We couldn't do it without you. Well, we could. It would just be bad and not fun.
But we couldn't do it without Don Gilstrap. Again, my favorite namer.
Yeah. Well, good job, Donnie boy. Good job. All right, well, that's going to do it for episode 214, The Eternal Flame. Thanks again to Steve Poltrineri. Great episode title there. Until next time, this is Sean.
And Alex.
And Duke you later, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening to the Dukes of Dice. Today's episode was recorded in the Duchy on November 21st, 2019. Our theme music provided by Carbo Hydro M from his Prime Legacy album. The Dukes of Dice are a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. For other great board gaming podcasts, check out DicetowerNetwork.com. And for all the latest to the Duchy, go to DukesOfDice.com. Find us on Twitter at Dukes of Dice. Join in conversations on our Board Game Geek Guild. Find us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks to our sponsors, Arcane Wonders and Game Toppers, LLC. You can check out all of Arcane Wonders' fine titles at arcanewonders.com and learn all you want to know about Game Toppers at GameToppersLLC.com. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Until then, game on.